The Italian language. It's been romanticized in movies, music, TV. But what is it about the Italian language that we love so much? Maybe for you, it's the sound.
The wistful ah, the rolling trill, the soothing S.
Or the nostalgia feel of the 1950s, 1960s pop music. For me, I always thought that learning a language is kind of like a superpower, able to decode and understand everything that was going on. It reminds me of a movie called Limitless. There's a montage of him learning French super fast.
Even half listening to any language, I became fluent.
Ordering at an Italian restaurant in Italian.
Since when do you speak Italian?
Oh. Fast forward, I met Agostina and I had a reason to learn another language, to communicate with her family, and that time it was Spanish. And when I decided that I would try to learn it, I thought, oh, how hard can it be? Turns out, learning any language is very difficult and time-consuming. So when I decided to go all in on Italian, I knew I had my work cut out for me. Learning Italian is romantic in theory. Like in the movie with Julia Roberts, Eat, Pray, Love, where she's learning Italian, becomes a very romanticized version of the process. The reality is something else entirely. And maybe now's a good time to switch to Italian and explain to you who I am and why I'm making this video in the first place. Ciao, sono Ian, faccio video qui su long-term world travel e recentemente ho condiviso la mia esperienza vivere in Italia e studiare la lingua italiana a tempo pieno. Ho vissuto ad Alessandria, in Piemonte, per 8 mesi, mentre mia moglie stava ottenendo la cittadinanza italiana. Ecco un certificato della mia scuola che dimostra che ho avuto 650 lezioni nella lingua italiana per affrontare alcuni dei commenti nel mio video What I Learned in 8 Months Living in Italy. E siamo in Spagna proprio ora, però no, non abbiamo lasciato Italia per sempre. Agostina è stata accettata un master's program, una laurea magistrale e quindi siamo qui per un po' di tempo, mentre lei lo fa. Abbiamo un profondo amore per l'Italia e non avrei passato così tanto tempo a imparare la lingua se non avessi l'intenzione di tornare. I'm gonna tell it to you straight. Living in a different country doesn't guarantee that you're gonna learn the language. Especially if you speak English, it's entirely possible to live your entire life in Italy without learning Italian. Depending on where you live, of course. This is where the language school really comes in handy. This was my first time going to a proper language school. From the time that you're a beginner to advanced stages, you only speak Italian. So you learn by spending time with the language constantly. Honestly, it was a great experience. I highly recommend it. I went to Ciao Italy in Torino. It's a very nice, newly renovated section of a very historic building in Piazza San Carlo. Go check them out. I'll put all of the resources for this video in the description below, as well as the books that I used to pass the B1 exam. I took exam preparation courses. These are my textbooks. They may be affiliate links, so I may get a small kickback if you buy it through my link. In the beginning, it's fun, it's new, it's exciting. You've got that fresh wave of motivation. Here is a graph that explains what your confidence level looks like throughout the process. This is the psychological phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where beginners often overestimate their abilities. Those with experience often underestimate theirs. This also aligns with your interest and your perceived progress. It spikes early when learning comes quick, and then flattens out in the middle when things get a little tougher. It can be discouraging in the middle, but a good way to get over that is to pay for your course in full like I did. And then you have no choice but to go to class every day for 8 months. As long as you go, show up, pay attention, that is a huge benefit of going to a language school. If you try to do it at home, then it's all on you to carve out the time in your day to study, and it can be very difficult to stay motivated and self-disciplined. Learning a new language is humbling. It'll smack your ego around, but if you stick with it, it opens up a whole new world of art, literature, movies, music, TV, history, the list goes on. When I was a young vagabond backpacking around Europe in my early 20s, I'd stay in hostels where you naturally meet people, go out, party. Now that I'm older and married, we stay in hotels or in Airbnbs, or we rent apartments long term. We spend more time at restaurants than we do in pubs or clubs, so the opportunities to make friends are a bit more rare. But that's one great thing about going to a language school. It's a great way to meet people from all over the world who are also interested in the same things that you're interested in, language, culture, all different different ages, all different backgrounds. Our school hosted weekly events, 2 guided tours, plus a aperitivo, or a pericena, as they would call it. It was like a big aperitivo where you would get to eat a bunch. And everybody goes and hangs out and talks in Italian, and you get to practice the other languages that you know too. They also had weekend excursions in different cultural sites nearby and other cities. We went to Genova. We had a tour guide who was from there, had pesto. I also went to the place where I think the illustrator of Pinocchio spent the last few years of his life. Beautiful little town in the mountains in the northwest, but south, close to the border of France. In the town, there's all these murals of Pinocchio all over the place. And we got to go to a little local bakery where they were making grissini, which is of that region. So language school doesn't just give you grammar. It gives you context, jokes, friendships, inside references, stuff that you'll never get from a textbook. My teachers were from all over Italy. Some were from Sicilia, others were from Piemonte, Brescia, which is where my wife's grandmother was from. I took classes on business and culture, art, the history of Italy, and you get their perspective on a bunch of different things. There's the unexpected gift of going to Italy to learn the language. That is that learning a language doesn't just change the way that you speak. The structure of your thoughts can change. You're not just learning new words, you're actually changing yourself. There's the version of you that exists in English, and then there's another personality that's kind of building as you're learning that has to conform to different rules. And honestly, it's pretty cool because going to a language school forces you to be uncomfortable. Yeah, I used to hate going up and talking in front of the class, but when you take a language class, that's literally half of what you do, and you're speaking in a different language that you're not comfortable in, so it's extra uncomfortable. But you have to get over that anxiety and that fear of saying the wrong thing, and it's a big growing experience. You become more patient, more aware, more okay with getting things wrong, and laughing about it when you do. And you know, it's always fun to watch a montage of somebody learning things super fast, like in Limitless, where he's listening to French and then all of a sudden he speaks French. But in real life, it could take years to learn. Finding a process that's enjoyable for you, that gets you through it, like going to a language school, committing to the process, showing up every day, paying attention, it can teach you a lot about discipline, consistency, and pushing through the tough moments. Now, after learning to speak a language, every time that I hear someone with an accent who is struggling to talk to me in English, I'm full of compassion and respect for that person who is putting in the work to try to put themselves out there and get out of their comfort zone in order to make me feel comfortable in speaking my language. That is something that I think that we can all learn to give back a little bit to others by learning a few words at least of their language when you travel. Even when you go somewhere for a week, you can set aside a little bit of time to go to a language school, get a couple of hours of instruction in, and it'll go a long way in deepening your experience of the place. If you are learning Italian, or even just thinking about it, here's what I'll say. It won't be fast, it won't be easy, and you will struggle at times, but it'll also give you access to a version of life that you can't experience any other way. A new lens to view the world through. And as someone who's willing to stumble towards connection, you'll learn a lot about yourself in the process. Thanks for watching this week's video. I've been trying to come out with them every week. I usually put a lot of work into making these videos, so I would really appreciate it if you give me a like. It helps the algorithm show it to other people who might be interested in this kind of thing. Consider subscribing, and you might also like this video here that I made on what I learned after 8 months of living in Italy. And I will see you soon. All right, peace.